a story time flow, so I think it's more exciting for me to tell a story and then sort of interject with my secrets rather than just reading them sort of off a list. I just think it's a little bit better to do it that way, so that's how I'm gonna do it. If you are interested in seeing more videos like this, feel free to like and subscribe so we can stay connected. So anyways, let's just dive right in and get going. So, currently I am 26 years old, so my teenage years are behind me for sure. But I do have a lot that I can talk about that you guys have never heard before. So these secrets will range from sort of general and basic to a little more juicy. But we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to focus mostly on the sort of high school years because I think that's just where I have the most to talk about. But to give you some backup and some context, I grew up in a very, very rural small town. It's one that most people have never heard of before, and let me tell you my first secret. It's crazy, I know. It's that less than 500 people went to my high school. Less than 500 people went to my high school. And my high school supported 2 other small towns, not just the one that I lived in. So there were students from 3 small towns going to our one school, and it had less than 500 people. So, kind of crazy. I know there are probably people who have had less students, but to me it felt pretty small. And I don't know, I just grew up and I knew pretty much everybody in my grade and pretty much anybody from the school in general. So, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, right? You couldn't really escape the people you were with if you didn't like them very much. But it is what it is. That's just how I grew up. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my friends and past relationships and what I used to do when I was in high school and all of that kind of stuff. But first I want to start by talking about the first job that I had, which is kind of a secret because I don't know if anybody knows this. My very first job was at 14 years old, and I would pick and chop tobacco leaves on a tobacco farm. Tobacco farm. And another secret. Do you want to hear it? Okay, I'll tell you. Another secret about this job is that I actually really loved it. I loved this job so much. And that surprises a lot of people. But I loved the physical labor of the job because I was always in really great shape and it was such good exercise, and I was always outside, which I liked. And I always had this awesome tan in the summer, and it made really excellent money for a 14-year-old. I think I was making at the time $10 an hour, and I worked a lot of hours over the summer, so I was making good money. And because I was 14, it was under the table, so I didn't have to pay taxes or anything. I would just get money from my boss every week, I think. So really good money, $10 an hour at 14 years old. I mean, $10 an hour is still good now. Minimum wage in a lot of places is still $7 or $8. So it's crazy for me, but I loved it because it also let me feel more independent. I grew up, I guess this is another secret, but I grew up with a family that didn't have very many resources. No fault of anyone was just a really wonderful job. And another secret about this job, this one is kind of crazy, but I worked with probably 15 to 20 people. I could be a little off with the numbers, but I think 15 to 20 people. And of all of them, of everyone I worked with, I was one of two girls. I was one of two girls. Everyone else I worked with was a guy. And it didn't intimidate me because I was like a tough girl. But I was well aware of the fact that I would have to be impressive, right? Because they were like tough guys. And so I had to prove that I could do the work, that I was good for it, that I wouldn't let anyone down. Because unfortunately, there are still stereotypes that are alive and well that people subscribe to, right? So I wanted to prove that I could be just as good as them, which I was. And I did prove, but it took time. Now, I began by picking tobacco leaves, which meant that certain people would chop rows of tobacco, and there would be people who would pick them up and hang them onto wooden lats with nails in them. You would just sort of stick them in. But the people who chopped were more or less trained to chop because you were swinging hatchets all day. It could be dangerous, and it was a guy's job, so I wasn't allowed to chop. And I had asked my boss multiple times, and he was like, "No, it's too tough. It's not for girls like you. It's better for you to just keep picking." And I couldn't accept that as an answer. I simply wouldn't. So I was like, okay, well, how about I have a little competition with the guys who typically chop the tobacco, and if I can keep up with them in a line, then there's no reason why you can't let me chop, right? And he was like, fine, sure. He didn't think I could do it. So there were 4 or 5 of us that lined up, and if you've ever seen a tobacco field, it's just lines and lines and lines of big plants. And the way it would work is you would grab a plant about midway up, you would bend down, and you would swing your hatchet at the very bottom of the plant. You wanted to keep as much of the plant as possible, pretty much to the ground. And they did it fast, right? So it wasn't just like a leisurely thing. It was like you would chop, 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 chop all the way down the line, because time is money, right? You had to do it fast. So we do this competition, and a secret that I have for you is that I did really, really well. In fact, I beat some of the guys that I was racing with. Now, to be fair, I'll never know for sure if they encouraged me in any way, if they were going easy on me, because they were all like my brothers. Once we got to know each other and got close, they felt like family to me, and I know they wanted this for me too. So who knows, it's possible that they were like trying to go a little easy on me, I don't know. But it doesn't diminish the fact that I was good and I could keep up with them. I did a really good job. And it's just something I've always been proud of. It's just always feeling like I could do whatever anyone else could do. And so, a secret, this is a good one. This is something that makes me laugh. The guys one day decided that they would give me a nickname. We all had nicknames. And they started calling me Crazy Chop, Crazy Chop, Crazy Chop, Crazy, Crazy, Crazy Chop, 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 Chop. Because of how aggressively I swung a hatchet. Because again, it was about keeping up, right? So I had to be strong and tough and fast. So you didn't want to get near me when I was swinging a hatchet because I could lose a limb. I don't know. this is a very spicy secret about him in that relationship. It didn't last too long. I don't know, it was like on again, off again. And he was just like overall a huge turd. But one of the juicier secrets I have, do you want to hear it? You want to hear it? Okay. Okay, come closer, because this is the tea, alright? I hate this guy so much. So, we had been dating for a little while, and I could tell he was frustrated with me because I was moving slower than he wanted. Now, for context, that was my first relationship, and I was, I think, 15 or 16, and he was 19, so he was older and more experienced than I was. So clearly he was fed up with the way I proceeded with that relationship, and instead of being a gentleman about it, he decided to, out of nowhere, break up with me by changing his Facebook status publicly, and saying that he dumped me without even telling me. I just opened Facebook and saw that he was single and I was single, and that was it. He said nothing to me after we had spent all that time together. I know. But here's the thing. Again, he was such a turd, like most of that relationship, that it really didn't bother me. Like, it was more of the principle. I felt disrespected. I felt like it was really rude and inappropriate to do that, especially like so publicly. So I was angry, but I could have cared less about the guy or the relationship. Like, clearly it wasn't gonna work out because he was too pushy and made me uncomfortable. But just the fact that he did that really, really got to me, and I was 16, you know. I didn't know how to handle that stuff really, so I was just mad. So I decided that I would go to his place of work, which was a Staples at the time. And one of my friends drove me in his car because I couldn't drive yet, or maybe I could drive, I don't know, but he drove me in his car. And I just had a box of all of his stuff, and I chose to bring it to his work because I thought if he was gonna publicly embarrass me, then I would do the same. I could have easily just dropped it off at his house, or honestly skilled, sort of. Like, I could do things like drive tractors, and even though it's completely different, it was just like okay, well, if she can learn this, she can learn other things too, because that's not necessarily an easy vehicle to drive. Not a lot of people would like to do that because it takes up a lot of space, so it can be stressful to drive in certain areas and things like that. But anyway, that was the first thing I ever learned to drive, and I drove it to school a lot too, which was funny. Good times. So anyway, first job, first car. So let's dig into actual high school stuff, because I feel like that's where a lot of the interesting content comes from. And I want to talk about some of my friends and how I met them and things like that. I just think I don't know, there's just so much to get into with that, and it'll give you some context and background. So I first want to start by talking about two of my best friends who I still talk to this day, 10 years later, 10 years from meeting them, which is wonderful. But both of them were a grade above me. So we met in sort of mixed age classes. That's how I met them. And it doesn't matter, but I'm not going to use names just because, I don't know, it really doesn't matter, but I'm just used to not using names. But my first friend, I met him in a math class, and I have a big secret about math. Not a lot of people know this about me, but, okay, come here, let me whisper this into your ear. I did so bad in math. I'm still terrible in math to this day. It is the worst subject for me. And what's worse is the stress it gives me. Math makes me sweat, and math makes me cry. I cried during every single math test in high school. Every single test. Everyone. Without fail, I would start crying, which is very embarrassing when you're in high school. Granted, no one really saw, which I was very lucky for, very grateful for. But no matter how hard I tried, and I tried very, very hard in school, I was like one of the good kids, like I cared so much, and I just couldn't do it. It didn't compute in my brain. I don't have a math brain. I get stuck, and then I stop, and I can't keep going, and I get lost, and I get frustrated and anxious, and I cry. So no matter how hard I study and how hard I try, it's like you put a test in front of me and my mind goes blank. I excelled really well in other areas like English, more of the writing and the grammar, vocab, stuff like that. I'm really, really good with. I'm a writer. I'm not a mathematician. It's embarrassing for sure. Luckily, I don't really use math now, and I got a calculator, so whatever, but I'm the type that will literally count on my fingers. It's bad. So anyways, I dreaded that class already because I was terrible in it. So when I don't even remember, I think this was like algebra 3 or something, I don't know. I was trying to knock out my requirements early because I wanted to be done with math. So that's why I was in with mixed age groups. I was the younger one in the class, and there were a lot of people who were older than me and grades above me because they had put it off, and whereas I was trying to get it done. So I was really self-conscious about my performance, and so I sat in the very back corner of the class, and I didn't know anyone in the class. I literally didn't. I was one of a few people, I think, in my grade. I don't even know if there were other people in my grade. I don't remember knowing anyone off the bat. And it's I knew of these people, but they weren't my friends. I wasn't close with them, and I was very intimidated by them because most of them were the cool kids, the popular kids that everybody wanted to hang out with. They were funny and outgoing and pretty and this, that, the other. All of which I was not. I was not popular in high school at all. I always loser for sure. I would say. I don't know. That's how I perceive myself, which is terrible, but but one of the guys that I sat next to, I think was intrigued by me for some reason. I don't know why. He didn't like that I was so quiet, that I wouldn't talk, that I just disengaged completely. And a fun fact about this guy is that I'm gonna make it a secret because it's not mean, but it's funny. This guy literally looked like Slim Shady. Like, I'm not even kidding. Eminem Slim Shady. Like, he had the blonde hair. He was super white. Like, everyone at my school was pretty white. We come from a very small, rural, like, farmer town. So, like, you can imagine what the diversity is like there. Terrible. Part of why I left. Mostly why I left. But he is so funny, and he'd wear like the white tee and the chain, like the gold chain, and he also idolized Eminem, like loved him, knew every Eminem song. So even before I knew that, though, he reminded me of Eminem, like the Slim Shady Eminem. So he was a character. So anyways, he started talking to me, which I didn't understand why. I was like, I don't know what on earth you think we have in common, because we probably don't have much. But he continued to talk to me. I think he saw it as a challenge of like, I can get this girl to like me, not in a weird way, not in like a romantic way, but like he just saw that I wouldn't talk to anyone, and I was kind of like a hard nut to crack in that way. Intentionally so. So, time went on, and he started like trying to engage with me more and incorporate me with his friend group and get everyone like talking with me, which was really nice. I did appreciate that. I would have never had the courage to do it on my own, but he was very good at just including me in things, right? And sticking up, like, I don't know, it just, again, he gave off like brother vibes, which was nice. And he started asking to hang out, which I was like, what? I thought he was kidding, like just making a joke or just saying like, how everyone's always like, oh, let's hang out, and you're like, yeah, totally, for sure, let's look at our schedules and get back to each other, and like it never happens. I thought it was like that, like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, we'll hang out. But then he kept asking, and I don't know, it just ended up being that he actually wanted to be my friend, which shouldn't be so hard to believe. Like, I am a fun person, but I was just so intimidated at the time, and I felt like, I don't know, I guess I just didn't have as much self-worth then as I do now, or I just couldn't see, like, why do you want to hang out with me? I don't get it. But yeah, we started hanging out, and we became really, really good friends, like, really quickly. And 10 years later, we're still friends. There's been some bumps in the road along the way, growing pains, as we all experience, but we've maintained that friendship, which was so easy and so effortless, and we became really close overnight. And I think a lot of it is what we had in common. So he's very different now, but at the time when I met him, he was in a really rough spot, which I could relate to. And so truth be told, we both came from sort of challenging home lives. We had a lot in common in that way, so we could relate to each other's problems, if that makes sense. We could understand how hard things could be at home when you had to hide it from other people. So I think that was something that really meant a lot to us to have with one another, because while I did have other friends, majority of people had very different upbringings from me. So I just didn't feel very comfortable confiding in them, because I knew they couldn't relate. They would try, but you feel different, you feel ostracized, you feel judged, you feel whatever it is. It just doesn't feel good. But when there's someone who knows exactly what you're going through and how it feels and what it means, it's very different and it's very meaningful. So I think that's a lot of how we bonded as friends. And it just meant a lot, and it was easy to just be like, hey, this is what's going on, like, I need to get out of the house for a bit, like, come meet me. And it was like, okay, I'll see you in 20 minutes kind of thing. Like, we knew how to help each other. So it was really important to both of us, and we're still really good friends today. We've both evolved into different people, but somehow we haven't completely grown in different directions. So I'm happy about that. And then, who else? I had this other really good friend who I actually met in the first grade. The first grade. And she was so much fun. I loved hanging out with her, and we were best friends for a very long time, but unfortunately we did sort of fall off a little bit. It just kind of happened, but we have recently rekindled our friendship, and I think it's only getting stronger, which makes me really happy, because I've missed having her friendship. And I guess a good juicy secret is that the reason why we stopped being friends for a while, it's so stupid, I hate to say this, but it was over a guy. But it was very complicated. It wasn't just some stupid random thing. Like, it was sort of like this long-term complicated tension. It's hard to explain without getting into it, and I'm not going to get into it because it's a lot, and it has something to do with one of my other very close friends. Like, it was just this whole mess, and it just started to get, like, weird. It wasn't like this big overnight blow up. It was just things were starting to, like, rub the wrong way. Like, we were just having trouble maintaining our friendship, and it's still so stupid to me that it happened. But that was years ago, and now, like I said, we're doing better. We've rekindled, and we're in a better place now. So I only hope it continues that way. And then my last really good friend that I want to talk about, I had known her since the 4th grade. And unfortunately, we drifted in different directions. reconnect, she would reach out to me, but I just didn't, I don't know. I just felt kind of weird reaching out if I felt like she didn't want that. So I haven't, but I would really love to reconnect at some point. I'm not sure. Again, we're on such different planes of life right now that I don't know if it would stick, but it would be nice to have her back in my life. We were really, really close and I miss her. But again, that's life. Sometimes that stuff just happens and it's no one's fault. They just kind of grow apart. So anyways, that's friend stuff. Random secret, just high school secret that popped into my head, is that I never ever went to prom. I never did. Isn't that crazy? I was so anti-prom at the time, and to be honest with you, I kind of do regret it. I kind of wish I went just to say I had that high school experience. It's like the quintessential high school experience. Everyone goes to prom and they get all fancy and have this nice date and whatever. And I never did that, and my friends didn't go either. Like my close friend group. And so I don't know. I'm sure I didn't miss that much, but sometimes I'm like, dang, I should have just went. Like, what was I trying to prove by, like, what? I was like sticking it to the man. Like, no, it's stupid. But anyway, I do kind of wish I went. But maybe I'll throw my own prom one day. But yeah, so those are some of the good friends that I had in high school. I had more, you know. But those were the ones I probably hung out on the reg. I also had a really good friend who had narcolepsy, and every time we would hang out, if she laughed too hard or got too excited, she would pass out. And I remember this one day, we were like shopping around, and we were walking on a sidewalk, and she laughed so hard she passed out in the street on hard concrete. Like, it was just crazy. She would just pass out everywhere. Which was both funny and stressful because, like, that can be dangerous. Luckily, nothing bad ever happened, but it's just out of nowhere. It'd be like, oh, she's down again. Crazy. Anyway. But the types of things that we did to hang out, they were so, like, they were so meaningless, but also meaningful. Like, again, coming from a very small town, there was, like, nothing to do. So my friends and I, we would just drive around, listen to music, hang out in parking lots. I know that sounds so stupid, but we would just sit and talk and, like, get fast food and just have fun and whatever. If anyone's wondering, like, what I did in high school in terms of, like, I don't know, like drinking, drugs, things like that, the secret I have to share about that, it's crazy. It's gonna blow your socks off. Okay, come closer, because it's a hot secret. I did nothing in high school. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do any drugs, I did nothing, ever, at all. My first shot of liquor was when I was 20 or 21, and I was in a different country where it was legal at 18, and I only did one, and I did it with my whole family. And then after that, I didn't drink until I was 21, which is kind of crazy. I discovered, because it seems like all the people I know, that wasn't their experience. But to me, I never had an interest in it. I really still don't. I don't drink much at all now. I'll, like, drink socially a little bit here and there. Don't do drugs, never done drugs. Don't smoke, never smoked. I did smoke a cigar once with a friend. Like, I took like a puff or two. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know why I even just said that. It's not that interesting. But anyway, point being, I never did anything like that. I was, like, very lame. But I'm proud of it. It's who I am. this is a sadder secret, but I wouldn't be giving you my full high school teenage experience if I didn't talk about this. But when I was 17, I had just turned 17, a few days prior, it had been my birthday, and unfortunately my father passed away unexpectedly. He had been unwell for a while. Won't be too specific about that, but he wasn't the healthiest with the choices he made. And just one thing led to another, and he just one day was here and the next was gone. And that hit me so hard. I mean, obviously, right? That's how it works. But I just became a totally different person. I was in this world of darkness and sadness and depression, and I just felt so numb. It was like there was a huge void, a huge fog constantly over me, and being in school for a while was really, really hard after that. And to be honest with you, I don't remember much of what happened for at least 6 months, maybe a full year. I remember bits and pieces, but as it relates to my dad's death and the way I mourned and all of that, it's really a blur. It's such a blur. It was too much for me, and I blocked a lot of it out. To this day, my mom will tell me things, and I'll be shocked. I'll be like, I don't remember any of that, and it scares her. But when you're a 17-year-old and you're going through all of these things, and then you experience something like that, sometimes you kind of just shut off. It's too much for you, and that's your body's way of dealing with it, is just numbing it out, because time doesn't stop, life doesn't stop, you have to keep going. So you have to find a way to push through. And luckily, again, I never used any kind of substance or coping mechanism that was harmful to my health. But emotionally, I was not healthy. And my friends did not know how to talk to me. They didn't. It was hard. To be honest, a lot of my friends were afraid of me, not because of how I was acting, but just because they didn't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or make me feel worse, or they felt like I would want space. They weren't doing anything out of malice, of course, but it just made me feel so isolated and so alone, because I could feel them pulling away from me when I needed them. And I understand where they were coming from, but it would have been nice to have more support. But it brings me to one of the most beautiful stories that I have, which is I had this really, really great friend, and we had been sort of on and off a thing. I had really, really strong feelings for him at a certain point, and then it fizzled and we were just friends, whatever. But we were really tight for a long time. And it was after school one day, and I don't know, I was kind of in and out of school. I would go when I could, but sometimes it would be really hard, and then I'd have to take a break. Emotionally, I just couldn't get through the days because I had no one to talk to, and I felt really alone, and I was struggling. So I was I think I went to school to pick up homework or books or something. School had been let out, and I would try to avoid seeing people as much as I could, but this guy who I knew saw me and started trying to talk to me, and now he was very persistent. That was something about him that was almost irritating, persistent to a fault, but in this case it was really helpful. And he was like, do you want to talk? And I was like, no, I don't. He's like, well, maybe just for a few minutes. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go home. And again, I was just this void, I just numb, no emotion. I this is something that I think you need, and I'm standing by that. And I'm gonna sit with you in this truck until I feel like you're okay to go home by yourself, because you're not okay, and I'm worried about you. And I don't know, it was really special. Really special. And I was basically like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I just know I'm not okay. Like, I don't think you can help me. Like, I appreciate what you're doing, but I just want to go home. And he was like, I understand that. And if you don't know what to say and you don't want to say anything, then we'll just sit here and you don't have to say one word. And we'll just sit together so you're not alone. And if you want to talk, I'll listen. And I just remember totally breaking down and just sobbing and just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And it makes me emotional to even think about it. Because I never cried in front of anybody. I still don't like to cry in front of people. It's like just such a vulnerable thing. And I can also acknowledge that that was a very vulnerable thing for him to do when everybody else was afraid of me to even come near me and talk to me. He was so persistent to see how I was, to make sure I was okay, to make sure I was getting it out, that he didn't care what I said to him. His end goal was to help me. And so I cried a lot, and we talked a lot, and we sat in that truck for hours. And I value it more than most things. That's not fair. I value a lot of things in my life. But that is a memory I will cherish for as long as I live. It was probably the most meaningful experience I had after my dad's death that sort of related to that time in my life. It meant everything to me, and I still tell him that to this day. It changed my life, and it helped me to start opening up a little bit more. It was really, really a special thing, so I'm so grateful for him and for doing that for me. And I know that he knows that, so anyway, I hope it's okay that I'm getting a little bit dark here. Again, it's just the full experience. I'm not going to sugarcoat my life or the facts about my life. There's a lot of really, really good stuff that has happened to me and some not so good stuff, so I like to be honest with you guys about that. So anyways, that was a really difficult time in my life. As you can probably imagine, I don't think I need to get too much into the specifics of it. But lucky for me, my math teacher at the time, who was a capital B, you know the rest, she took such pity on me after this happened. And it was the only time I ever saw a nice side of her. Like, I thought she was the devil. And she was the only teacher that came to the funeral, and she was there to support me. She would talk to me after class. She gave me extensions on everything. She offered to tutor me and help me so I could get through the class, and was very generous with her grading to make sure that I did okay. So it was very grateful for her too, which was shocking. And again, like, math, like, that meant a lot, because I did bad in math on a good day, like, not after, like, my dad died. Like, so that was a positive experience as well, like, seeing such a selfless side of her. Anyway, so then, shortly after I started my second job, this is a fun secret too. I worked, I think some of you know this, I don't know. I worked at a theme park. But specifically, I worked in the entertainment flavor of it. I was in great shape. I was dancing literally all day to fun music. I was best friends with everybody there. Like, this job got me out of my shell. Like, it sounds dramatic, but I swear to you, this job changed my entire life. And I still think about it all the time. It changed my life. I met so many incredible people, did so many incredible things, conquered so many fears, learned how to drum. I learned from that job. Had so many incredible mentors who only wanted to help me grow. Like, it was incredible. I did that for a few years before going off to college and before trying to do the whole adult thing, you know. I didn't feel like that could be a career path that was permanent. I loved every second of it, but, you know, the pay was fine. There were no benefits. Like, it's great for a teen summer job, but you start to think down the line and, you know, you have to make different choices. Though I do think about that job a lot and I do wish that I could perform full-time somehow, to have more of that in my life, even if it's just like community theater or something. I don't know, I was never a theater person per se, but I miss performing. So I have stories and stories and stories like you would not believe from this job, of all the cool things and crazy things and stories. So if you want to hear more about that, let me know. It will need to be a separate video. There's too much. I've already been talking for an hour. So it would need to be a separate video, but let me know if you want to see it, because I have a lot to share. Maybe it could be another like secret video like this. Make it a series, I don't know. So that job was really great. It's also how I met my second significant other. We dated for about a year, and not to be dramatic, but she kind of ruined my life. I'm mostly healed from it now, but there were definitely a lot of abusive qualities to that relationship, and it was toxic, and there were these like wonderful highs and these crazy lows. It was like being so in love and being in so much pain all the time. I'm not gonna get into too many specifics because it's not a very fun story, but I did grow a lot from that relationship. It taught me a lot, and while I wish I didn't have to experience a lot of what I experienced from it, it has made me who I am today, so I'm grateful for that. But my God, was that a tough one. And she was 5 years older than me, so I want to say I was 18, so she was 23, so kind of a big wide age gap. I don't know why I said that like that, but yeah, it just didn't work out for a lot of reasons. But yeah, so another big thing that happened in those teen years, I'm trying to think what else. So I guess I'm gonna just start trying to wrap this up because you guys are probably asleep, or you're like, why is this woman still talking? It's been an hour. But I do have a few closing secrets. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm all over the place here, but I did just think of a really crazy secret that happened in my high school, and I'm gonna share it. Okay, so this is the big one. This is a big secret, and it has nothing to do with me, but that's okay. Okay, listen up. You gotta get really close for this one, and you can't tell anybody. It's really bad. Okay, so we had this music teacher who everybody loved. Everyone was obsessed with him, and by everyone I mean all the girls. And whatever, he was fine. I never had him. I didn't take music classes, so I must have met, I don't know when they met per se, but they started dating when she was 17. And he was God knows how old, right? I don't know. I have no idea. So they start dating. Word gets out about it. He gets fired, obviously, because you can't date your students, especially the young ones, when you are a grown ASS adult. But it gets worse, okay? It gets worse. So not only did they start dating, but then she gets pregnant. She gets pregnant. And she has a baby. She has a baby, so they get married. They get married. But remember, he has no job now because he got fired. So they're all living together at the student's parents' house. I'm sure they've since moved out, but this was the situation as I heard it, as I got the tea from the other kids. And now this one is definitely more, this part of the story is more of a rumor than anything else. I cannot confirm it, of course, but the rest of what I said is true. But lots of people knew that this girl was also in love with someone else in our grade. And he was very blonde. He was a blonde boy. And she was a very blonde girl. And the baby was very blonde as well. Didn't look anything like the teacher. And so, rumor has it that the baby may not even be the music teacher's. Again, totally unwarranted rumor. I don't have the evidence. We would need paternity tests for that. Which unfortunately is impossible because this boy that she was so in love with did tragically pass away. Very, very sad. We've actually lost a lot of kids in our grade, tragically. One of my really good friends too passed away in a car wreck. I don't know what it is. We have very bad luck in our town. So anyways, whole huge rabbit hole with that girl, with that teacher, with their child. I don't know how they're doing. But I just thought that was so crazy that a teacher would actually do that. He must have really loved her. I don't know. Good for them, question mark. I don't know. So anyways, those are some highlights from my high school and teenage experience. I'm sure I could say a lot more, but that's what's sort of just off the top of my head. Again, just being spontaneous. But there's a plane going by, you can probably hear it. But to be honest with you guys, a secret that I do have is that I did not appreciate my high school years, my teen years, my youth, while I had the chance. And I do regret that a little bit now. I can appreciate it for what it is at this point in my life, but I took it for granted. And when I was experiencing those years, I hated being in them. I just wanted to grow up, and I wanted to get on with the life, the world, all of those things, not realizing that there's no other time like that. That youth truly is fleeting, and I'll miss it when it's gone. And I'm very grateful for the memories I have, the friends I have, the experiences that molded me into who I am. But if you're watching this and you're still a teenager, please enjoy every second of it. Have fun. Be safe, of course, but know that you have the rest of your life to do the adult things that you think are so cool. And let me tell you what's not cool, okay? Health issues, right? I'm only 26, and I get hip pain and knee pain and all this crazy stuff that never happened to me when I was a teen. It's only gonna get worse, okay? You know what else is not cool? Paying bills, having debt. I don't know, like making phone calls all the time, making appointments, going places you just like sunshine and roses. You grow up, you have this great, wonderful life, and it can be great. But enjoy having the time where you don't have responsibility. You can just hang out with your friends, have fun, make memories, and just live your life to the fullest. Do it while you can, okay? Because it starts to get harder. You still can do it, but I'm just saying it's a very different kind of life. So anyways, that's my closing note there, is just enjoy the life you're in. Enjoy the present. Be present. You're gonna keep growing up, God willing. You gotta stay safe in whatever you do, but enjoy your life. Be grateful for your life. Have fun. See the positives.